Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. This is how you manage your boss. Don't argue, comply. Then sit back and laugh at the idiot. Authority exposes people. Some will accept advice, others insist on consequences. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Don't trust me enough to not micromanage me? Enjoy staying late to do my job? This happened at work about 10 years ago. The context. At the time of this incident, I'd been working for a big box superstore for about 12 years, 5 of which as a department manager. I managed 3 areas: fresh meat, frozen seafood, and prepackaged deli and breakfast meats. I supervised 2 part-timers and 2 full-timers. I reported to 3 supervisors, ranking in order: an assistant manager, a co-manager, and then the store manager. The situation. On a particular Thursday morning, it was just myself and one of my full-timers, Carl. Carl was on duty until 3 p.m., myself until 4 p.m., and no one else after. My other full-timer was on his day off. One part-timer was not available Thursday through Saturday, and the other was on vacation. Coverage was thin at best and would continue to be that way through the weekend. Having been super light on coverage all week due to one of my guys being on vacay, the deli wall was looking a little thin. On this Thursday morning, I had to decide how best to prepare for the weekend. I knew that I would not have enough staff to commit a person to filling the deli wall on Friday or Saturday. As soon as I'd finished breaking down Thursday morning's delivery with Carl, I began busting my butt to get the deli wall as full as possible before I left that day. That way I could have my guys focus on the fresh meat wall throughout the weekend, where I knew it would be super busy. While I did this, I entrusted Carl to fill the fresh meat wall for Thursday night's 4 p.m. rush. He was a very hard worker despite his age and health. I knew he could handle it on his own. Around 11 a.m., Carl had to take his lunch break. While he's gone, my co-manager, Scott, arrives to work and sees only me, and I'm filling the deli wall while only half the fresh meat wall had been stocked thus far. Scott does not like this. He tells my assistant manager, Brenda, to have me swap to the fresh wall as it's more important for that night's customers. I immediately seek out Scott to tell him why this is a bad idea and why I'm filling deli meats and not fresh meats, but Scott doesn't care. He doesn't want to hear what I have to say. I'm to do exactly as I'm told. He doesn't want me to fill the deli wall, only the fresh wall. Did I mention that Scott is ex-military and still acts like he's enlisted? Cue the malicious compliance. I did exactly as Scott told me. After having only worked about an hour on the deli wall, I put all the freight back into the cooler and began filling the fresh wall. Carl returned from lunch, confused to see me. I explained what had happened before taking my own lunch. Upon my return, the fresh wall was nearly finished, but I went ahead and helped Carl continue filling it. Soon we were done and just topping it off throughout the rest of the afternoon. If someone bought a pack of beef, we both went back into the cooler to bring out another. Same with chicken, pork, anything. Walking back and forth, one package at a time, until Carl left at 3 p.m. and then I left at 4 p.m. As I walked past the deli wall on my way out, it was already looking so much worse than it had when I had arrived that morning. The aftermath. When I arrived to work at 7 a.m. on Friday morning, the first thing I did was walk past the deli wall. I was completely caught off guard to see it had been filled. As I'm theorizing who could have possibly filled it, Brenda comes by and sees the puzzled look on my face. She comes over to me with a bit of a grin on her face. The following is what she had told me had happened after I left the night before. The little bit that had been on the deli wall when I had left only continued to be shopped. More and more of the wall emptied out as people shopped. It began to look like people had been panic buying. It had gotten so empty. Around 8 p.m., a market manager came in to do his own shopping. I didn't explain this before, but a market manager is who my store manager reports to. In other words, someone who has even greater authority than anyone in the store. Market manager Bob goes to buy some lunch meat. Lo and behold, there's almost nothing on the shelf. He notices the entire wall is nearly bare. He's furious. Bob demands that Scott come over to the deli wall immediately. Scott runs over and gets his butt chewed. Bob orders Scott to get the wall stocked immediately. Scott is only now understanding the scope of his blunder. The wall is so empty that it'll take a few hours to fill. And it's in this moment Scott realizes how hard he had effed up because he hadn't checked the schedule earlier and is now discovering that there is no one in the meat department that evening. There's no one he can delegate this task to. Guess who ended up having to fill the deli wall? That's right, Scott had no choice but to do it himself, and he didn't get done until midnight. Remember, he'd arrived just before 11 a.m. that day, and he had to be back at 8 a.m. Friday. Also, Scott is salaried, so he got no overtime for the extra hours worked. Scott never did apologize to me for not trusting my judgment and for not listening to me, but he learned his lesson. From that day forward, he did not try to micromanage me and let me run my departments unimpeded. I always love it when obeying a nasty man is the best punishment for him. I hope your boss has learned his lesson, OP. Some people have to learn certain things the hard way. Looking at you, Scott. And our second story. Young gun thinks he knows me, tries to get me fired from my old bouncing gig while I'm doing my new job. Background. I've worked in security for over 6 years now. First few mostly as a bouncer, but later on as a celebrity/socialite CPO, close protection officer, i.e. bodyguard. 2 years prior to this incident, I was working the doors at a club that was a hotspot for underage drinkers and obviously bounced a lot of them in my time. It's not only the biggest venue and was always jam-packed. On to 2017-2018 New Year's Eve. I was working in a team as a CPO for some rich 18-year-old who liked to big things up on New Year's Eve for his chums. Lad's tab bill was well over $100,000 converted a night. My guys got 2 of 5 VIP areas, which surround the dance floor, and a stupid amount of Dom Perignon. The title character, D-Head, is in a different party and VIP area right next to the 2 my principal has, separated by a knee-high wall. One of our jobs is to make sure my guy's area and drinks are only taken by his partygoers. Throughout the night, D-Head and his married jerks were stepping over into our area, trying to take drinks, talking crap, and just generally being turned drinking age prats. Not sure what cracked, but D-Head was in my principal's face, so I grabbed him and mildly removed him. He wasn't having that and started shoving my partygoers around, making a fuss. Scuffle, shouting, usual club crap. Bouncers, my old colleagues, come in and do their part, and things are back to a calm state. D-Head then decides he's got something to say. Basically, convo went like this. Keep in mind this is a nightclub with music turned up to 11. D-H, what's your name? Me. What? D-H, what's your effing name? B? Me. What does it matter? D-H, tell me your effing name. I'm going to F you up. Me. I don't effing care. F off. D-H, you're a piece of crap. Can't be any more than a bouncer. I could own you and your family. You're trash. You get the idea. Insults. Me. F off, see? I don't work here or for you. I tried pushing a bit to move him away, but he moved closer to me. D-H, full shouting with spit right into my ear. I know you. You worked here for years, so you don't remember who I am. Don't you know who I am? Me, after pushing him away from my face. Go on then, who are you? D-H, don't effing touch me. What the F? You can't touch me, mother effer. Continued with more insults, followed by poking my chest with every word. My team are getting ready to back me up, and the principal and his party are looking my way. I kept trying to talk him out and make him ignore our area, but he wasn't listening, just yelling and swearing. Until I just had enough. I grabbed his wrist, pulled down on his shoulder, and twisted and bent his elbow behind his back and shouted as loud as I could in his ear that he's done and to leave it alone. I might have been a bit of a knob and said some cringe thing like, I'll break you. After I let him go, he gave me one more, you're effed, and went over to the bouncers. They came over and looked at me a bit confused, then I think said, this guy doesn't work here. He said more, but I couldn't hear what. The knobbo went back to his mates, and I didn't see him the rest of the night. Jerk still kept trying to take my group's drinks, though, but nothing to write home about. Too bad I can't read the whole thing in Jason Statham's voice. Story could be the first 2 minutes of a Guy Ritchie movie. Some customers just really miss the days of saloons from westerns when you could throw them out the window. And our last story. Called the police on my neighbors. So yesterday evening, my neighbors had a birthday party. We live on a countryside. Lots of us have smaller farms, which is why we aren't really living close together. Now, as I said, my neighbors had a birthday party and played loud music, which honestly was nice to listen to. But once the clock was past midnight, the music became louder and I couldn't even fall asleep. Edit. My country has a law that no disturbance of night peace is allowed between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I had to get up before 5 today because I had some at-home visits on my schedule. I'm a veterinarian apprentice. Sorry for my English. And when it was almost 2 a.m., I called and texted my neighbor if there's a chance they could turn it down a bit. They answered that I live far enough that I shouldn't hear much, so I sent them a video where you can hear how loud their music is, and I was basically called a prude, old-fashioned bitter bee grandma. I'm a 29-year-old female, so I decided to call the cops. I was told I wasn't the only one who called and that they're already on their way, and today when I talked to my dad, he also called me bitter, and no wonder I have no friends. Which really hurt, as I have a very busy life, and so do my friends. Edit. Because I see some people talking about it. No, my dad was not at the party, he was at home. They've been doing this for the past few weeks. It's not all birthday parties, it's just plain weekend parties that are usually going on all night. I'm not the only one complaining. Their closest neighbors are parents with twin baby girls. They were the ones who called the police yesterday, besides myself. The mom's a good friend of my cousin. I had to give 2 lethal injections today on my at-home visits. It's been rough preparing for this mentally, and honestly, a decent sleep is quite important to me. I'm not that old. I'm 29 with no kids at the moment, with a steady boyfriend and a group of friends I wouldn't trade for the world, and I like partying with them. I just can't imagine inconveniencing people and being noisy in a rather close neighborhood, as they have neighbors that are rather close to them. Our farm is much more secluded. Brother, now you know your neighbors will resort to ridicule and insults. Don't be nice guying in the future. 10:01, call the police. Let one pass and it'll embolden them. Man, listening to stories like this, you can understand how people who have this happen to them permanently turn into Karen. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.